Welcome back to Hard. We'll allow your mind to wander back to 2012, the Republican primaries, and imagine Mitt Romney facing a right-wing duo or duet of Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum running together on anyone but Romney ticket, an anyone but Romney ticket. Could he have won, by the way, the nomination with that double team, that crowd double teaming him? We learned today that Gingrich and Santorum actually held talks together about joining forces and running on a unity ticket, two of them together. Good idea. But they couldn't decide, this is the funny part, on who would be the presidential candidate and who would be the vice presidential candidate. So the idea fell apart. One thing's for sure, a Gingrich-Santorum campaign or a Santorum-Gingrich duet would have been a serenade to the Obama headquarters in Chicago. They would have loved that. Josh Green broke this story from Bloomberg at Business Week this week, and Michael Shearer covers politics for Time. Thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations, Josh. I thought we'd gleaned every iota of groovy fun out of that 2012 election, and you went back and found this morsel. Tell me how you got it, if you can, and tell you what it means. Tell us what it means.
Sure. Well, I was interviewing Newt last Friday for Business Week, and I'd heard rumors of this. I asked him about it, and he confirmed that they'd done this. So from there, it was just a matter of kind of putting together the pieces, talking to the different strategists, and kind of recreating this special little chapter of the 2012 campaign.
Okay, for the nugget of fun, did he really think, knowing Newt's brilliant ego, did he really think there was a chance he could have convinced Rick Santorum, the leader of the cultural religious right, to take number 2 on his ticket? Because he must have thought that, because he didn't go into this thing thinking he'd be number 2.
Oh, he absolutely thought that. I mean, that's why this eventually fell apart. Was even when Gingrich's campaign was losing steam and Santorum was winning, Gingrich still envisioned himself as the top dog on the ticket.
Explain.
Well, as it was told to me, Gingrich gave a long historical soliloquy about how in the past, when a party couldn't rally on a single nominee at the convention, the party elders would go for kind of the senior statesman, and Gingrich regarded himself as that senior statesman and thought that Santorum ought to defer to him.
Is everybody senior a statesman? Michael, sure. I don't think everybody who's senior, just because you've been around a while. He was dumped as Speaker of the House. He's not Sam Rayburn.
He couldn't even let's not dwell on details.
Yeah, about little details. Yeah,
and he couldn't even keep his own campaign together. I mean, he at that point had lost Florida when this talks began, and his own campaign had collapsed from within, so he wasn't really running with a lot. It's a bit like saying you're Tab and RC Cola, and if we combine forces, we can take on Coca-Cola.
But it would taste terrible. Anyway, by the way, Gingrich would have been great in this business. He is a great pundit. Yeah. He is entertaining, he's intellectual, he is fun, he's conceptual. He's a terrible candidate. Anyway, he likes to go to the zoo, apparently, a lot. Yeah. Anyway, Gingrich told you simply, I'd like to have had Santorum drop out. And he'd have liked me to drop out. Of course, that's obvious. Well, a month before their negotiations about putting a ticket together, he'd been referring to the former senator as a junior partner in the trail in New Hampshire. Take a listen.
I would say in terms of if you think of us as partners, he would clearly, in historical experience, have been the junior partner. And he's not a bad person. I want to be clear with this. But I don't know that he has any track record of being able to organize a large-scale campaign that I'm describing, or being able to then govern on a large scale. And I think that's important. I mean, I don't think you just want to hire somebody to get through the election. You want to hire somebody to actually change Washington.
Josh, again, back to the ego of that guy we just watched. I mean, he never held an executive position in his life. He was elected Speaker, then thumped and dumped as Speaker. They wanted to get rid of him. They held the majority, by the way. Here's a party which manages to get back the speakership and the majority position, thanks in some part to Newt's amazing campaign skills. He can't govern. They dump him, and now he comes out and brags, at least I can be an executive. Explain.
Well, look, I mean, he's always viewed himself as an executive, as this kind of grand figure, historical figure who, led his party to the majority and can do so once again. And I think he viewed at the time, he viewed Santorum as a junior partner. And even when he was losing badly, I think he still viewed Santorum as a junior partner. And in fairness to all these presidential candidates, you have to get up and look in the mirror and think that you're going to be president, or you can't get out there on the campaign trail day after day after day doing what these guys do.
Well, both Gingrich and Santorum's primary campaigns did revolve around trashing Romney as the worst thing one Republican, one called another these days. Anyway, a moderate. That was the big knock on them. And here was Rick Santorum at last year's CPAC.
We're not going to win this election, ladies and gentlemen, because the Republican candidate has the most money to beat up their opponent and win the election. We won in 2010 because conservatives rallied. They were excited about the contrasts. We always talk about, oh, how are we going to get the moderates? Why would an undecided voter vote for a candidate of a party who the party's not excited about?
You know, I think it does go back to that. Now we're on to this thing. Do you think a party of conscious conservatism could have beaten this duet, had a chance of beating Romney? Because he wasn't that authentic.
He was a terrible candidate, but if you look at what the states that Santorum and Gingrich won, it kind of goes down the Mississippi River and into the South. They were both fighting for the same constituency. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of pull for either of them in big states like New York or California, so it would have been a long shot run. I think the most interesting part of this thought experiment is, if they had beaten Romney and then gotten thumped in the general, which they most likely would have. I mean, this was a race about the economy. It was not a race about social issues, which are Santorum. It's not a race about the various flaws that Gingrich has. Would the Republican Party be in a different position now? I mean, right now, the Republican Party is fast moving away from what Santorum just said there. We don't need to reinforce our base. We don't need to tell ourselves that we're great if we just stay more conservative. The Republican Party as an institution is trying desperately to expand itself beyond that. And they're doing it while conservatives are saying, still what Santorum is saying, you know, if only we had been more pure in 2012.
How can you go both ways? How can you go to the center at the same time you want to go right?
Well, that's the point. There's right now a struggle.
I agree.
There's a struggle, but if
my hunch is they're going to go right because they're going to see Hillary Clinton coming. They're going to say, we're not going to beat her. Let's have some fun at least.